uh, about 20 to 10 o'clock here, Central Time Zone here in Iowa. A little bit late. Trevor had something come up tonight. He wasn't able to make it. Tried to wait a little bit, but he unfortunately is not going to make it tonight. So you have me solo. So tonight's going to be a little bit shorter podcast. First, just, thanks everybody for listening and watching and subscribing, whatever you might do there. But just, again, way you can help us out with the podcast, just rate, like, subscribe, go on YouTube and watch this. I was watching some stuff today, podcasts and just shows that are now on YouTube. It's really a neat way to watch. I like watching just shows and podcasts on YouTube just as much as listening to them that I used to. That's a really neat medium to use. You can see my ugly mug and go on from there. But, or wherever you listen to podcasts, I listen to those as well, driving to and from work. Thank you again to those that do watch, listen, everything else like that. Since it's just me, we were going to talk a little bit more NFL with Trevor here. That's not my strength. Just a couple, kind of comments. Several injuries. The Chiefs are out of the playoffs. Mahomes is out for a while, torn ACL and LCL. I think it's going to be at least half the year next year before he plays again. So the Chiefs have some decisions to make. I'm not going to say that the dynasty is over. I do remember long ago, Tom Brady hurt his knee. Matt Castle went in. They didn't make the playoffs 1 year. Then they were right back. So they just have to do some retooling. Some players have to make some decisions. I'm assuming that Mahomes will come back just almost as good as new. Kelsey's got to make a decision. Andy Reid has to make a decision. Does he want to continue to coach 66 years old? Been super successful. It is what it is. One of the guys I was due, Trent Condon. The only difference in this team, if you look at the stats and everything else, is last year they won all the one-score games, close games. This year they lost them all. Only difference. Last year, 14-3 or 15-2, whatever it was. And then this year, they're out of the playoffs. First time they are not going to be in the championship game for 7-8 years. First time not in the playoffs, I believe, in 10 years. This opens the door for Josh Allen from Buffalo to make the run. They're not going to be the 1 seed. They're not going to be the 2 seed. But this is their chance. I truly believe that this is the Bills' time. I don't think this is the best team they have, but this is their best chance. They need to prove it. NFC, Bears win decisively. Huge game against the Packers this week. Micah Parsons, another ACL injury. Devontae Adams, another ACL injury for the Rams. Those are top of the division in the NFC. Bears need to win on Sunday. It's just that simple. 49ers continue to look good. Purdy's making plays. Kittle is just being Kittle. And it's just great to watch. Winding down bowl games most every day from now until New Year's. NFL is going to be Saturdays, Sundays. So it's just lots of sports, lots of time off coming up. Not necessarily this week, but starting next week. Kids don't have school. You don't have to work every day. You're going to get, Christmas Eve off, Christmas Day off. Most people will not work on Friday. If you're one of those lucky ones able to take it off, that's great. If you have to work, that is okay. We will do our best. I'm going to try to get one out probably next Tuesday. It won't be Wednesday night. If we do it, it'll be Wednesday morning. Try to do one probably Tuesday night so you can listen to it as you travel with your family, loved ones for your Christmas time. I do want to touch one other thing before we get on. Tomorrow night, you guys hear me talk about how you can listen to us on Steve Shetler Media on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. Well, also tomorrow at Thursday, I think I'm going to be on two you'll be able to watch me twice or whatever at the same time there. I don't know how he does it all, but it's still going to be on certain parts of his website and everything he does. But I believe the podcast will be on at 7 o'clock, just like normal. It's usually the first 15, 20 minutes or so of the podcast, which tonight's going to be most of it. But those episodes that we do go an hour, a little bit over, he usually goes about 15, 20 minutes of it. Again, thank you to listen to that, and thank you, Steve, for that. But also tomorrow night, we make my season debut, Pekin basketball, boys and girls against Columbus High School. I've done radio and play-by-play before, but this will be season debut with Steve Shetler tomorrow night, Pekin versus Columbus. I will be on the call. Please pray for my voice to hold out. We're going to have to do something about that relatively soon, but we're gonna do the best we can. I had a couple of people tell me I sound like Bill Finley. The voice is scratchy and kind of gets higher pitched at times, and that's not a bad person to be compared to. He's been a great ambassador. He's been there longer. He was there well before I was even at Iowa State, and I've talked to him many times throughout the years. I mean, he doesn't know who I am, but just always been gracious. Anytime I've seen him, both when I was at school there and then after, just around, you see him doing things. Excuse me there. Now, let's get into college football. I want to start with the Michigan situation. Michigan fires their coach for cause. We're having a bunch of Ohio fired their coach with cause today. I think a lot of these schools are looking for reasons to get rid of guys, and they're finding them, and they're using it so they don't have to pay these big buyouts. Buyouts are what's making these college coaches rich and having all the power. Now, I think what Sharon Moore was wrong, and then what he did, obviously, afterwards, where he was going into his wife's house and his girlfriend's house and threatening them and himself. Mental health crisis, absolutely. But let's look towards the future and what Michigan needs to do to move forward as a program. Michigan needs to get a coach hired soon, much like, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes, but Iowa State is holding together their team right now. I'm not going to say it's held together, but it's holding. It's in limbo, but it's better than it could be. Michigan, every day that goes by, they don't hire a coach. The potential of losing players and losing momentum going in to next year and the next recruiting class and the next one, it just becomes a snowball effect. However, there is some reports that their AD is in trouble, their president's in trouble for cover-ups and knowing what was going on. And then, so much like a little bit of the question with Matt Campbell and Pat Kraft at Penn State, would he survive this? It looks like he's going to at Penn State. I don't know if Ward Manuel is at Michigan. So if you're Kenny Dillingham or Jed Fish or Jeff Brom or whoever ends up being this coach, the president, the AD, any other administrators around there may not be there. And we all know when a new AD gets hired or a new president gets hired, they want their own guys. So you're in a tough spot. Now, these guys all paid well. You get fired without cause, you're going to get money. But still, you go to Michigan, they hire a new AD, and in 2 years, it's just different. And so then you're out, and then you got to go find another job, which you will, and it's okay. The other thing, Michigan, over the last 5 years, has beat Ohio. They had their first run up until this year of beating Ohio State several years in a row. I believe it was 4 in a row under Harbaugh and Sharon Moore. So they had that going for them. Won a national championships a few years ago. So in 3 years or 5 years, this fan base and boosters and whoever else is affiliated with the program is going to want those same results. Beat Ohio State, win a national championship. I don't know if it's as easy as it once was. Ohio State is not taking a step back from anybody in the country. They are the best team in the country. They proved it last year. They've been the number one team in the country all this year up until the Big Ten championship game. I haven't looked at the odds to win the national championship. Probably should have looked that up. But I would assume they're probably still the favorite, even though Indiana did beat them. I would guess Ohio State's the favorite. It'd be them or Georgia would be the favorite to win it, in my opinion. And we're going to get to my picks here for this weekend. Ohio State obviously is not playing, or Indiana. But Michigan needs to get it hired. They need to, make decisions on the president, make decisions on the AD to move forward so they can get the semblance of normalcy, try to keep their players, try to keep their coaches if that's who they want, or, bring in the new coaches that they can get. And then just a trickle-down effect. I talked about this weeks ago with Matt Campbell. Wasn't super worried he was going to go to Penn State, but I was worried about Matt Rule going to Penn State and then Campbell maybe going to Nebraska. Well, it's not the way it worked out. But, obviously if Jed Fish goes to, Michigan, Washington opens, who takes that job? And that's just the interesting stuff. And, we may have a defensive coordinator now. We may have a head coach here. Well, in 2 weeks, they're gone. And then deep down, what is Matt Campbell thinking? I had a couple people ask me, is Matt Campbell wishing he would have waited one more week to take that job? And I think he probably could have waited a week. I don't think Penn State was they were going from – they'd already waited 54 days. Another 7 days probably would have worked. Now, I think he's happy going to Penn State. I think it's probably a job he really wanted. But Michigan is that same type of job, and I would say overall it's a better job than Penn State. So deep down, when he's sitting there with his wife at night, does he just say, darn it, could have waited a week? And I think Michigan would have been in play for him. And also just he could have used that for leverage if he really wanted the Penn State job. He could have got more money out of Penn State and more NIL money. It's just things that you just never know they're going to happen. And they do. And, he took the Penn State job, but, deep down, would he have rather had the Michigan job? I don't know. I don't know Matt Campbell that well. So I would assume by next show we'll have a coach at Michigan, but I don't know that. And we'll talk about it then. College football playoffs start. There were bowl games yesterday. Atumwa's Trey Schwartz played for Troy. Unfortunately, they did lose to Jackson State, not Jacksonville State, Jackson State. But just a great career. And just, it just shows that you just keep working hard, things will work out. He played, at Iowa Western, who they won a national championship tonight, and I believe he won a national championship at Iowa Western. Then he goes to Troy, Division I football player, not having to pay for school, playing, Division I athlete, got to play in some big-time places, got to play in bowl games, got to play in conference championship games. Those are experiences you can never get back. And yes, he did not play at Oregon. He did not play at Alabama. But he got a lot of experiences that most of us, 99% of people, never get. And he worked hard for that. Proud of you, Trey Schwartz. Tonight, there was a bowl game. Delaware was playing Louisiana. I think it's still going on or maybe just ended. Old Dominion beat South Florida. So bowl games are most days now. Let's talk about the big one starting Friday night. Oklahoma, Alabama. Alabama looking for revenge against Oklahoma for the last 2 years. Kept them out of the playoffs last year with their 9-3 record. This year, Alabama still gets in with a 10-3 record because they lost their third game in the championship game. But it's at Oklahoma, two of the bluest of blue bloods. I honestly wish they could both lose. I don't like either team, but I am going to take Alabama. I just don't know if Oklahoma can do it again. Beating Alabama twice in 1 year is super hard. Georgia can't do it either. Georgia, they beat them once, lost to them another time. So I'm going to go Alabama, but I think it's going to be a really, really close game. Miami travels to Texas A&M. So another, this is the one ACC. This is, I think Miami's one of the 12 best teams in the country. I'm not saying that, but Miami's in the playoff for one reason only is because the ACC champ was not in with Duke having a 5-loss team, and that playoff committee could not afford to not put an ACC team in. That's why they're there, and that's why Notre Dame's out. Now, Miami also beat Notre Dame. There's different arguments there, but that committee, college football playoff, had to have an ACC team. So Miami is it. They're going to A&M. I actually don't know how good either one of these teams are. A&M, both of their best wins are Notre Dame. A&M played the complete bottom half of the SEC, except for Texas, and they lost to Texas. That's their loss on the year. Miami couldn't even make the championship game in a not strong ACC where a 5-loss team won the championship. Now, obviously, they did not lose 5 games in the conference, but both those teams they're not going to go any far. Whoever wins this one's going to go and going to go lose after that. I do believe that. I'm going to pick Miami. I do think they're better. I think A&M is way overrated. So I'm going to pick Miami in that. And then the next 2 games here are the big time spreads, the group of 5 teams. James Madison, I read a nice article today on them on how they had to get ready to play this game before they even knew where they were going or if they were going to be in the playoff, because you just have to plan. And they don't have the same resources as most schools that are in the playoffs. They're talking about how they're like 100 miles from Washington, D.C., but when they're flying out, their director of operations and all their, chief of staff, everything, they all went to Dulles and flew out, or Reagan, one of the two. I think actually use both airports instead of flying right out of town and on a private plane like the Iowa State people would or the Miami people. They're getting on commercial planes, flying across the country. Then they also, I believe, had to fly to scout the Orange Bowl down in Miami, because if they would beat Oregon, that's where they go. The playoff committee does a good job of giving them a lot of things, and they set all this up, but there's still timing. And then they were talking about how their coach is leaving, so they're working with Billy Napier, the new coach, on getting things. It's just a complete mess. It was just a really interesting article. I think it was on footballscoop.com. But Oregon's just too good. This game's not going to be close. Oregon, it's a long travel. James Madison's just not used to this environment. Oregon has a chip on their shoulder after last year, too. I really believe that. I think that Oregon-Texas Tech game next week, after Oregon beats James Madison, will be one heck of a game. I really want Texas Tech. I'm going to pick Texas Tech to win, but Oregon's going to give them everything they have, and Oregon definitely could win that game to get to the semis. And then last but not least, we have a rematch. I don't like these either. I understand I would almost like to see James Madison and Tulane switched here. Tulane's already played Ole Miss. And we've seen it. Ole Miss won, not like they didn't kill them, but decently. The only interesting thing here is how does Ole Miss handle the coaching change? Now they hired the defensive coordinator, and a lot of the coaches that are going to LSU have went back and are working for Ole Miss, just not Lane Kiffin. I don't think it matters for this game, but I think going forward, Ole Miss will be done when they get to the quarters. But I think they just got a little bit too much for Tulane, because Tulane's going through a coaching change as well. Their guy's going to Florida. Now he's still coaching Tulane through the the playoff, but it still is a distraction, and he's moving on and everything else like that. So my picks: Ole Miss, Oregon, Alabama, and Miami are my 4 picks this weekend. So the 2 big favorites, and then the 2 road teams. Moving on, college. Pavia loses to Mendoza for the Heisman, and then Pavia goes off and, F the voters and, all the comments, and he comes back with the apology. So now you have the world and the Hawkeyes versus Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. If you're his agent, if you're Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, you're the Vanderbilt administration, you just got to be shaking your head. Like, we have our guy in New York. We've got, it was pretty much a given that Mendoza was going to win it. It wasn't a shock to anybody that he didn't win. You have your time. This is your promotion to get you. You are very much not guaranteed to get in the NFL. You're not very big. But if you want a chance, you have to do everything right. And I think he really hurt his chances. And if you're Vanderbilt, you just really got to be shaking your head. Like, just keep your mouth shut for another month till we play. Then you go do your thing. Then kind of last here, Cyclone coaching transition, player transition, really not that much. There are reports that they're having a meeting on Friday where they're going to announce several of their new assistant coaches. It is finals week. I would think starting tomorrow, Friday, and then definitely beginning of next week, you're going to start seeing the players leave. Now, officially, they can't leave till January 2nd, but they're just going to say, they're going to send the message, always a Cyclone, love it here, but time to go to Penn State for the select 4 or 5 that are going to go to Penn State. And then, then 10 of them are going to go somewhere else. And that's just the reality of it. But then also you're going to have kids from around the country and kids from Washington State and South Dakota State. Hey, I love being a Jackrabbit, but it's time to go be a Cyclone. So it's going to come and go. Coaches are going to get announced, and then everything's going to get finalized here. And as Jamie Pollard said, in spring, there's going to be 100 and some kids out for Iowa State football. And then in the fall, we're going to have 105 kids out playing football for the Cyclones, doing their best, trying to win football games. And that's just the reality of it. Yes, we all want to know where Rocco Beck is going to end up. We all want to know where Ben Bramer is going to end up. We want to know where Marcus Neal is going to end up. Those are the 3 big ones that I want to know. Those are my 3. If we could keep one of the 3, I think we'd be doing pretty good. It just comes down to what they want and what their options are. Obviously, they're going to have options. Do they want to go? Do they have the opportunity to follow Matt Campbell to Penn State? Or do they not? I can't answer that because I don't know that answer. If they have the opportunity to go to Penn State, I think it'd be really hard for all 3 of them to turn down. I really do. I think that'd be a really good situation for them. They're familiar with the coaches. They're going to go play in the Big Ten, playing for one of the premier football traditions in all of football. They're going to play in front of 100,000 people every home game. You can't blame any of them. Now, if they're going to go somewhere else, then they do need to look at and Rocco Beck. I think Rocco Beck needs to look at it a little bit different than the others. He has a chance to come back and be arguably the greatest quarterback in Iowa State history. Now, Brock Purdy's probably the most famous one. He has a lot of the records, but if Rocco Beck comes back, he's going to break a lot of Brock Purdy's records, and he's going to have a chance, if they have a really good season, to have more wins than Brock Purdy. If they could make a great run and get to a Big 12 championship, he'd have 2 championship game appearances, and Brock only has 1. And then obviously if somehow they could get there, I do not think it will happen, but if somehow they could get to the playoff, he would just cement his legacy at Iowa State. And I do think him and his family do understand the legacy piece of this.
and he would graduate as an all-time Cyclone if he comes back next year. Really, no matter how the season ends up, he would be an all-time Cyclone. But you can't blame him. It's tough on all these guys. Everybody that he's from Tampa, Florida. He didn't come to Iowa State because he loves Iowa State. He came because he believed in the coaches. They just happen to be at Iowa State. Now, I'm sure he loves Iowa State now, but he didn't grow up down the street. He's not Taman Lipsey that grew up in Ames, loving Iowa State, probably was going to play for the Cyclones no matter who the coach was. Just is what it is. So hopefully those decisions are made soon, and then everybody just can move on. Just like the Matt Campbell thing. You're sad, you're frustrated, you're mad, you're happy if he stays, whatever the emotions with the decision need to be, but we just need to go through that. We went through it with the Matt Campbell and Jimmy Rogers situation. We all know we're going to go through another ride here when all the players really decide we just want to do it, and we want to do it sooner rather than later. But I do think it should be this weekend. I really do think. School will be done. Most of the players are going home. So maybe when they sit around their family for a few days and they really decide what to do, I would say, next Monday and Tuesday, I would think a lot of them will announce where they're going to go or what they're doing. And I did hear today that there was somebody that said he's coming back. And I do hope that the ones that are coming back, and whoever it is, it doesn't have to be Rock. It could be anybody that's coming back needs to put out that same statement and same graphic. Hey, I'm coming back. I am a Cyclone. Jimmy Rogers is my coach. That same graphic when you stay as if you're leaving, just to let everybody know, hey, I'm in it. I'm with Iowa State. So we'll see how that works. And I hope the PR team and all those people at Iowa State, for those kids that are coming back, celebrate that just as much as the people that are leaving that always put it out on their socials and stuff like that. So I do hope that happens as well. And then kind of last but not least here for the last couple of minutes here, Cyclone basketball, just another ranked number 10 for the women. Just great week, winning the Cyhawk game. I believe we went on right after that last week, so we did talk about that. And they had another win on Sunday by a lot. The Cyclone men beat the Hawkeyes in a really tight battle. Ben McCollum is one heck of a basketball coach, and we've talked about that. And he will have the Hawkeyes. I believe they'll get to the tournament this year, and they will be a really good basketball team going forward. And that's going to be a dogfight every year, and that's good. But the Cyclones did pull it out. They kind of walked through a game on Sunday against Eastern Illinois. They play this, I believe it's Sunday against Long Beach State, another sleepwalk, and then they'll all head home for Christmas for a few days, and then they'll be back. Number 4 in the country, undefeated. Couldn't ask for anything better. Just need to stay healthy, win the home games, win the ones you're supposed to, finish up, get to February, ranked in the top 5 with maybe 1 loss, maybe 2 at most, and finish the year at 26-4, 27-3. Be right in the mix for the Big 12 championship and have yourself right in the mix for a number 1 seed in the tournament. That's your goal right now, as long as everyone stays healthy. I believe we were 15-1 last year, ranked number 2 in the country. Milan breaks his hand, and then Keyshawn gets hurt. Lipsey gets more hurt, and everybody knows how it ended. But as long as everybody stays healthy, the goal for this team, the ceiling for this team is Final Four. The floor is Sweet 16 if everybody's healthy. Really need to have that chance this year to get past that Sweet 16. Iowa State's been to enough Sweet 16s in the last 10 years, 15 years. Let's get to that next step and maybe 2 more steps. And then once you get to the Final Four, then, hey, let's go win one, and then let's win the whole freaking thing. So that's getting a little bit over our skis, but the way you're playing right now and what happened last year and everything, it's time. We can do it. The Cyclones are one of the best teams in the country. They're going to have a chance to show it, and let's do it. So we're right at 30 minutes for myself. That's plenty good. You don't want to hear me just keep rambling on, but enjoy the college football playoff this weekend. NFL we're getting right down to the end. We're going to have games on Sunday and then games on Thursday for Christmas Day. And it's just a great time of year. The weather looks great here in Iowa. It's going to be 50 degrees, I think, for Christmas Day. So it's going to be a muddy mess out there, but it'll be good traveling weather for everybody. And that's the most important thing is everybody can get with their family and the people they love and care about and enjoy the time together. So have a great week. We'll be back next week, and we'll talk to everybody next time. Thanks for listening.